Show me the car, peace, and wartime. This is part 2 of the likeness of a man. Let's get into it. Now we will focus on the feminine side of this quote. The sun is male, and the rest of us octagon 8 orbs are female. I, Mother Girth of Earth, am also mentioned in the Bible in multiple places as having a mouth and being conscious and giving birth. And he said, What hast thou done? The voice of thy brother's blood crieth unto me from the ground. And now art thou cursed from the earth, which hath opened her mouth to receive thy brother's blood from thy hand. Genesis 4, 9 through 10. Also in the book of Revelation chapter 12, that has been properly interpreted by sound right reason. So what we're going to do is go into Revelation chapter 12. That's been already done by me and Auntie Jutah under the direction of sound right reason. True me to call peace and wartime. Alright, and there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. Explanation. The zodiac is Noah. The evolutionary force is cast from the sun 17,250,000 years ago. Noah was the child, Ham, Shem, and Japheth, born from the woman, the female energy of the earth after the great flood, Revelation 12th chapter. Mother Earth and her female energy were referred to as a woman in ancient times. The Christ child came much later than Noah. The word Christ came from the Greek prefix chrysos. Chrysos means pink, golden, or yellow in color. Therefore, the etymological or original meaning of the word Christ is pink, golden, or yellow in hue. Christ is a moon word which refers to the moon, and to Christian child or children called Cain, because the favorite colors of the moon God's sin are pink, yellow, golden, white, and silver. And Cain, the firstborn group of the Caucasian race, had silver and yellow hair and white skin like the color of ghosts. Bible Interpretation Explanation Book 2 in number 96 in part, written 1968. And upon her head a crown of 12 stars in part. Explanation. The 12 stars are the 12 zodiac houses. Verse 2. And she being with child cried, travailing in birth and pain to be delivered. Explanation. This was explained in verse 1. 3. And there appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns and 7 crowns upon his head. Explanation. The red dragon is our sun exploding 6 ether gamma radiation from itself 18 million years ago. The 7 heads are the 7 orbs that were present at that time. And his tail drew the third part of the stars of heaven and did cast them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman, which was ready to be delivered to devour her child as soon as it was born. Explanation. This is speaking about the sun's influence on another planet's protection, called a magnetotail / magnetic sphere. Magnetotail, the region of the magnetosphere of a celestial body such as a planet that is swept back by the solar wind in a direction away from the sun. It's a picture of the earth, the bow shock, the magneto sheet, the magnetopoles, the magnetotail. So when the sun exploded 18 million years ago, its tail hit the earth and it affected the earth. That's why the Bible said the tail or Lucifer took 1/3 of the heaven, and it's 3 parts to the earth's outer parts. You got the magneto sheet, that's 1. Magnetopoles is 2. The magnetotail is 3. So you're talking about 1/3. It's actually 4 if you count the bow shock. So out of the 4, 1, 2, it's 4, yeah. After the bow shock, it's 3 out of 4. So that's the 1/3 of the heaven, meaning the outer part of the earth that's called the sky. Alright. A magnetosphere is the region around a planet dominated by the planet's magnetic field. Other planets in our solar system have magnetospheres, but Earth has the strongest one of all the rocky planets. Earth's magnetosphere is a vast comet-shaped bubble which has played a crucial role in our planet's habitability. Life on Earth initially developed and continued to be sustained under the protection of this magnetic environment. The magnetosphere shields our home planet from solar and cosmic particle radiation, as well as erosion of the atmosphere by the solar wind, the constant flow of charged particles streaming off the sun. Earth's magnetosphere is part of a dynamic interconnected system that responds to solar, planetary, and interstellar conditions. It is generated by the convection motion of charged molten iron far below the surface in Earth's outer core. Constant bombardment of the solar wind compresses the sun facing of our magnetic field. The sun-facing side or day side extends to a distance of about 6 to 10 times the radius of the Earth. The side of the magnetosphere facing away the sun, the night side, stretches out into an immense magnetotail which fluctuates in length and can measure hundreds of Earth radii for past the moon's orbit at 60 Earth radii. 5. And she brought forth a man-child who's to rule all nations with a rod of iron. Explanation. The she is planet Earth. The child was the birth of ghost spirits, solar neutrinos, millions of years later. That would be 6,060 years ago. 6 ether in the form of darker races in the land of Nod were waiting to kill Cain if they were not given the cross to Cain to protect them. The zodiac is known. The evolutionary force is casted from the sun 17,250,000 years ago. Noah was the child, Ham, Shem, and Japheth, born from the woman, the female energy of the earth. After the great flood of Revelation 12th chapter, Mother Earth and her female energy were referred to as a woman in ancient times. The Christ child came much later than Noah. 96. The word Christ comes from the Greek prefix Christos. Christos means pink, golden, or yellow in color. Therefore, the etymological or original meaning of the word Christ is pink, golden, yellow, and hue. Christ is a moon word which refers to the moon, and to the Christ Christian child of children called Cain, because the favorite colors of the moon god's sin are pink, yellow, golden, white, and silver. And Cain, the firstborn group of the Caucasian race, had silver and yellow hair and white skin like the color of ghosts. The original meaning of the word sin, the name of the moon god, is the same as that of Christos and Christ. The group called Adam and Eve was the first people converted to the moon god's way of life, or rather death, called Christianity. Hence, Cain, Adam, and Eve's first offspring was the first natural born Christians, meaning the first Christians by nature, and this fact was verified when God or ghost passed the cross and his powers from the Indians to Cain, the Caucasians. Genesis chapter 4, chapter 15 verse. And a lot of that is, matter of fact, you can look at a swastika, and if you bend the swastika out to a straight line, that's a cross. Because the swastika was a Hindu symbol that Hitler took and put his own meaning to it. But the swastika was the sign that the Hindus had, and their power was passed over to the Caucasian, and the swastika became the cross. Alright, the moon god ghost is Christ, the god and extractor of the Caucasian race from the Phoenician and Indian people. Christ is ghost, the death gas. The moon god Thoth Anubis is part of Leviathan that produces ghosts. Therefore, ghost and Thoth are the same. The Caucasian race inherited its colonizing nature from the Phoenicians, and its case nature from the Hindu, the East Indians. This is why Caucasians are called Caucasians, and in the word Caucasian you had the word Asians, which the Mongoloid race and the Indian race are all considered Asians, but the Caucasian race came out of the Hindu branch of the Phoenician race. Alright, Cain and their descendants 5,000 and 6,000 years ago were also called the sons and daughters of God, that is ghosts. Genesis 6 chapter 2nd verse. No one can be a real Jew or Christian by nature but a Caucasian. Christianity was called the heathen's religion in Old Testament days, and Moloch still requires human sacrifices and is prevalent throughout the Christendom. Moloch, also spelled Molech, is Jesus. Bible Interpretation Book 2, number 95 through 97 in part. Who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron? Alright, so I'm going to stop right here, and then I'm going to add in some more information from what me and the Noop did, explaining from the nature of nature how the earth herself has two wombs. She has a womb which is where Lake Victoria is at, where the black race originated from, and then she has a second womb down on the equator of Indonesia, where she also has a womb that mankind came out of. And then we'll probably do a part 3 to this. True me to call the peace and wartime.
Let's go to the nature books. All right. So we're gonna screen share the nature books real quick. Let's share the screen. All right. So you see this screen, Ken? The nature books?
Mm-hmm.
All right, cool. So number 60, listen to reason. Shape 25. Matter of fact, I'm sorry. This is Introduction to the Nature Book 2. So we got Introduction to Nature Book 2, page 51, number 60. Listen to reason. Shape 25 in this topic is a half section of the planet, top view, typical of that of the planet goddess Mother Earth. The main purpose for showing this view and graphic picture is to disclose the method and process of the origin of the flesh and blood gods and goddesses of planet Earth and the Ethiopian race, which is us, on one hand, and the origin of the mankind on the other hand. The depiction illustration defines the ovary womb that produces the gods and goddesses, showing how the womb is embedded in 9 ether clay. It shows the ovary womb that produces original mankind and the water inlet and birth channel, which are connected to the uterus, the womb, embedded in 6 ether clay. In the topic in this book called The Peoples of Nature by Reason, this writer will define and describe the differences between the origins concerning 6 ether and 9 ether clays, and the opposites concerning peoples and the gods and goddesses. Let it be remembered always and let it be known. Before we move on, right? I want to say that religion is not so far-fetched from what we know, because we know in the Bible it says that man comes from what? From clay, right? Or from the dirt, or from the ground, or some, and things of that nature. Now, when you go to the nature books, it tells you that man does come from clay. But what kind of clay? There's different types of clay that is embedded in the ground. There's 9 ether clay, and then there's 6 ether clay. All right. So it's not so far-fetched. It's just that religion twisted science in such a way that it made it almost like a fairy tale, and it doesn't give you the evidence or facts to back up the fairy tales that they're given. But when you come to the nature of nature, those fairy tales are unraveled into reality and reason, which gives you the true origin of how these things came about. I don't know if you want to expand on that, because I know you were deep into religion, Tarnoon, and you came out and you're in Noon, so you want to expound on the clay aspect, or you want me to move on and from there?
I mean, like you said, mostly most of the religions over here in America say the same thing. The Quran gives you it says black clay. Like you said, the Old Testament pretty much says from the ground. The ancient Egyptians said Khnum created man from a potter's wheel. which is a form of clay. You can go in different types of parts of the origin stories, and they all connect. They got that one thing in common, that they do say the ground. Other religions, some say, not on the planet per se, or even in some of the ancient stories say a mound came up out of the water in ancient Egypt. But yeah, they all have that one thing in common, at least the clay and or the ground concept. So yeah, you're doing good. You straight.
All right, cool. So I'm gonna share another page real quick. All right. So what is this clay? There you go. Layers of the earth. Here we go. Here goes a nice picture. All right. So you got the inner core, the outer core, the mantle, upper mantle, and the crust. All right. So I think Wikipedia gives a good outlining on what. Yeah. So all right. So the internal structure of the earth is layered in spherical shells, an outer silicate solid crust, a highly viscous asthenosphere, and mantle, a liquid outer core that is much less viscous than the mantle, and the solid inner core. Scientific understanding of the internal structure of the earth is based on observations of topography, and it looks like bathymetry, observations of rock and outcrop, samples brought to the surface of greater depths by volcanoes or volcanic activity, analysis of the seismic waves that pass through the earth, measurements of the gravitational and magnetic fields of the earth, and experiments of crystalline solids at pressures and temperatures characteristics of the earth's deep interior. Now, I'm not going to go into that, but what's very important to understand is this particular part right here. These are rocks. These are melted rocks that are in here. The inner core, these mantles, these two mantles here are actually rocks that are melted in. They're basically clay structures. All right. So let's go now to the nature books again, where he shows you the womb of Mother Earth. All right. So as you can see here, this inner core would be the iron core that he speaks about, and that iron core is basically the brain of the planet. We're going to talk about a whole nother day, because if we go into why it's the brain and how's it feed us into a 4 or 5 hour thing. So tonight I just want to keep it to an hour and a half. So this particular part is the inner core. The outer, on the right, directly outside of the inner core, is the spontaneous membrane. Now this is where we get to the mantles. So the inner mantle is the 9 ether clay, and around that mantle is another mantle called 6 ether clay, but in modern science they call it the upper and lower mantle. So the upper mantle is composed of a set of rocks or clays that are 6 ether clays, and below that is where the 9 ether clay mantle resumes. Now, in between these mantles, you also have the womb, right? And the womb of the 9 ether clay stretches all the way up to Africa. This top part right here is Africa. He basically shows you the top part of the planet and basically cuts it in half. So the birthplace of, here go right here. The birthplace of the gods and goddesses, right, which is our ancestors, were born in Africa. And that part of Africa that he's talking about is Lake Victoria. Then this particular aspect is where the other race of people come from, or their ancestors rather. This 6 ether clay, or the upper mantle, and that's in Indonesia on this aspect right here. We're gonna discuss that a whole nother day. Right now, we're just discussing the origin of black people, and I'm just giving you just the inner aspect of the planet of where we come from. All right, it's all gonna make sense in a minute. All right, so this is the crust of the planet. So if we go back to Wikipedia, right, basically they're just giving you a quarter section of the planet. This would be the brain, this would be the outer membrane of the brain, this would be the mantle that he's speaking about, the 9 ether mantle, this would be the 6 ether mantle, and this would be the crust of the planet, this outer part right here. All right, so I hope you guys see that, and we could go back to the nature books, and it shows us that right here. Okay, so where were we born? We were born, or our ancestors rather, were born at Lake Victoria, right? According to the nature books, we were born at Lake Victoria. But how, why were we born there? Or how were we born there? So give me 1 second. Gotta pull up Lake Victoria real quick. Give me 1 second, folks. I hope those that are intelligent can see where this is leading to, because this is going to be very, very, very interesting. Because the next step will be to pose the question to those that claim to know, science. They would have to show us, how do we come from America, or our ancestors rather coming from America get there. All right, so Lake Victoria, or Nalubale, which is in New Uganda, and Nyanza in Kinyarwanda and some Bantu languages, is one of the African Great Lakes. The lake was named after Queen Victoria by the explorer John Hanning Speke, the first Briton to document it. Speke, or Speck, or whatever his name is, accomplished this in 1858 while on the expedition with Richard Francis Burton to locate the source of the Nile River. With a surface area of approximately 68,800 square miles, or 26,600 square miles, Lake Victoria is Africa's largest lake by area, the world's largest tropical lake. That's to keep that in mind, tropical lake, and the world's second largest freshwater lake by surface area after Lake Superior in North America in terms of volume. Lake Victoria is the world's 9th largest continental lake, containing about 2,750 cubic kilometers of water. Lake Victoria receives its water primarily from direct rainfall and thousands of small streams. The Kajera River is the largest river flowing into this lake, with its mouth on the lake's western shore. Lake Victoria is drained solely by the Nile River near Jinja, Uganda, on the lake's northern shore. Lake Victoria occupies a shallow depression in Africa. The lake has a maximum depth of 84 meters, which is 276 feet, and an average depth of 40 meters, 130 feet. Its catchment area covers 184,000 square kilometers, which is 71,000 square miles. The lake has a shoreline of 7,142 kilometers, which is 4,438 miles, which digitized at the 1 to every 25,000 level, with islands constituting 3.7% of this length, and is divided among 3 countries: Kenya 6%, or 4,100 square kilometers or 1,600 square miles. Uganda, 45%, which is 31,000 square kilometers or 12,000 square miles. And Tanzania, which is 49%, or 39,700 square miles or 13,000 square miles. All right. So this is just giving us the surface area and things like that. You could read more about it if you want on Wikipedia. So let's go real quick to what type of lake. Because when you're doing research and somebody tells you something, you have to go into depth about that whole entire thing as to why, would this be the birthplace of African peoples. Let's see what type of Lake Victoria is. So we're gonna open up another window. We're gonna go to Google. Type in types of lakes. All right, we're gonna click on that and we see, all right, how many types of lakes are there? All right, on the basis of origin, there we go. That's a beautiful word that we love. Origin. On the basis of origin, 11 major lake types have been recognized that are further divided into 76 subtypes. All right, so you got organic lakes, which are formed by the actions of flora or fauna. These lakes are relatively small in size and are quite rare in occurrence. An example of an organic lake is a reservoir created by the damming of a river by the action of beavers. Coral lakes or dams created by vegetative growth also lead to the formation of organic lakes. All right, then you got volcanic lakes. Lakes with a volcanic origin are known as volcanic lakes. These lakes are usually formed by volcanic calderas or craters, or when lahars or lava flows interrupt the flow of the river or stream. Volcanic lakes are formed in volcanic craters or calderas when the rate of precipitation is higher than the rate of the loss of water via evaporation or drainage through an outlet. An example of a lake formed in a caldera is the Crater Lake, which is present within Mount Mazama caldera in Oregon, USA. The Malheur Lake is Oregon. The Malheur Lake in Oregon is an example of a volcanic lake that was formed by the damming of a river, the Malheur River, by lava flow. All right, so a volcanic lake basically stops maybe a river in its tracks because it's formed a landmass and it created a lake. Then you got glacier lakes. I'm not gonna read through this whole thing. So you have glacier lakes basically from melted ice. Because we went through the ice age, some parts and regions melted and created lakes. Then you got tectonic lakes. This is a very important lake because Lake Victoria is a tectonic lake. And why is that important? The reason why that's important is because if we go back to the layers of the earth, the tectonic plates are made up of the earth's crust and the upper part of the mantle layer underneath.